All right, a lot of folks have been asking if you can take a GT2 bolt and put it in a Prime XTS, and we're going to take a look at why you can't do that actually, and really the differences between the two bolt systems. So we'll start off with the Prime XTS bolt here. So this type of bolt, this design, really originated in kind of like the Clone 5 era. And the idea was to really listen to the folks that were speaking about, hey, MacDev, we want you to do X, Y, and Z, and create a really like a quote unquote simpler bolt system. So this is a unbalanced spool, which means that it's got kind of like an air sear is what a lot of people will call it. So the solenoid air goes into here and holds the bolt back. And the main can or volume chamber air goes into this hole right here. When the solenoid air is released out of here, the volume chamber air is pushing on the back of this bolt and pushes it forward, fires, and comes back. Now we can look at that in a little bit more detail here if we take this apart. And we won't take the back half apart just because honestly there's not much going on back there, because it is a pretty simple design. So you see you've got your firing can here, your bolt here, and what they call a valve here, valve guide. And so just to lay that out here, when the bolt is at rest, you can see that those little air holes allow for, or these slits allow for air to come through these holes over the top and fill up through here, fill up this volume chamber, right? And as the air is released from the solenoid here, the bolt moves forward, seals off. There's actually an O-ring on the inside we'll take a look at here. Seals off these holes so though there's no air flowing through and into the volume chamber. Fires, and then comes back and fills up the valve chamber again. Okay, and a lot of folks have noticed, okay, well the Prime XTS has this real like pop sound to it. Well, a lot of that is attributed to the way you go from a very small or a very large volume chamber and push it through a very small tube. And this is a pretty basic kind of fluid principle that you'd be able to see. Really, the velocity of the air kind of increases as it shrinks down and moves through a smaller tube. And just the actual sound signature that it gives off is a little higher. It's a little poppier. So anyways, it's pretty basic, right? And again, this is what folks were asking for. So you can see there's that O-ring on the inside here, and O-ring on the front side here. But this is that sealing O-ring. Just because it is simpler to a degree. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 dynamic O-rings. Everything else is stationary, hold still, super basic, and honestly very similar to a lot of the major engines that are out there right now. Some of them just seal off the air, shut off the air in different ways. Now the GT2 bolt, however, is a balanced spool valve. And so what that means is that there's air that controls the forward pulse of the bolt, and there's air that controls the backward pulse of the bolt. And so that goes in here and here. And that's pushing the bolt forward and back. Which was really kind of the way to do it back in the day, and some of the markers now do that too. Like a old school DM3 or some of these other first spool valves were balanced spool valves. And so you can see there's other videos that I have explaining this and how this bolt system works. So if you want to see that, we won't go into great detail on that. But there is some functionality difference to that. And the main thing is you have to have a solenoid that is 4 ways. So a solenoid that pushes the bolt back in one cycle and pushes the bolt forward in another cycle, which also means that you're going to need air pathways drilled in the gun to do that, or milled in the gun to do that. You're going to need all kinds of specifications within the gun to make that happen. And so that's why this isn't just a removal and drop in, just because they're two completely different designs, and the guns are completely different as far as air routing and all that other kind of fun stuff. So the reason why this could drop into a Clone 5 though, is just because it basically was the Clone 5 bolt, just without the moving valve system that came stock in the Clone 5 and the Clone 5S. So that's the main difference between these two bolts. It's been my experience so far, and again, not super broken in, probably 6-7 cases at this point, that this is a softer shot, and it's got a much, I would say, softer sound signature, smoother sound signature, more like a Matrix or something like that you might be familiar with. And obviously it sounds really similar to a Clone GTI. So we'll go into detail about this particular bolt system here in some new videos moving forward, and some of the upgrades that are in this particular one and why they did that. So stay tuned. Thanks.